greatest adventure is what lies ahead. Today and tomorrow are yet to be said.
Hello everyone, this is Nova Consequence, back again with a new video. This is the 14th episode in this series, which recounts my ongoing Dungeons & Dragons campaign, which is now in its 9th year. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to the channel. It'd really help out. Alright, so as always, spoiler alert, I will be revealing details found in this adventure module. So where we left off last time, the characters fought and defeated the last of the elemental fire temple forces and found some chests in the main worship hall, which they took back to town with them. They got some pretty nice loot out of the place, particularly some various magic weapons and armor and a shield. Obrak especially made that well. Obrak the dwarf, he got, when it was all divided up, he ended up with a +2 warhammer and a +2 shield, which that's an important detail which will come up later in this video. Alright, so before we get back to the adventure, at this point a new character joins the party, Niobe the cleric. Niobe is a priestess of St. Cuthbert, and she was part of a second Temple of Elemental Evil campaign, which I had been running in addition to this campaign. Unfortunately, that campaign had suffered from player attrition until only 2 players remained. And then their adventuring party at this point in their temple adventure suffered a near TPK, and only a few of their characters escaped back to town. And so I had decided to end that campaign, but the 2 players I offered to merge them into this campaign, and they could bring one each of their surviving PCs with them. One of the players was unable to accept the offer because he said he was already in another gaming group which meets on the same night as this one. However, Niobe's player accepted the offer, and she chose to bring this character over into this campaign. So the backstory: she was a cleric of St. Cuthbert, and which Quint had been, and so the backstory was that the Church of St. Cuthbert sent another cleric to take Quint's place and help out the party, and also to keep that church informed of everything that was going on with the temple. So now we have a new player and another character. So they went back to the temple, and I don't have any screenshots, but once they got back down to the 2nd level, they explored around a little and found a hallway which they knew from their mapping that they had not previously explored. So they went down that hallway, and it didn't take too long for them to see a side corridor from which they could hear noise, see light, and peeking around the corner, they saw that it appeared to be some kind of a dining hall, mess hall. And they could see several bugbears sitting around a table, eating, drinking, laughing. And they were all wearing cloaks that were a light gray color. And so just going from the color schemes, they assumed that these bugbears probably belonged to the Temple of Elemental Air. But whatever the case, they decided to just rush in and attack and catch these bugbears off guard. So they did that, and that's illustrated here in this screenshot. And you can see there on the right, I promptly rolled a natural 20. That was on Niobe. A bugbear swung his weapon at Niobe, scored a natural 20. So right out the gate, Naya was the very first battle with this group, the very first attack in the very first battle, and she suffers a critical hit. So that was disheartening. You can see I have all the character name tags turned on, and the reason for that is because, again, Naya, her player, was new to this group. She didn't know these characters, so I turned on all the name tags until she got familiar with who's who. So the rest of the characters pushed in and started fighting these bugbears. Garrett stayed back to keep watch in the hallway, make sure nobody came up behind him. You can see some more bugbears have gone down here. Well, actually, all of them except one. It didn't take the characters too long to take these guys out. The last bugbear up there by Obrack and the Sergeant Major, once he saw the other bugbears had gone down, he dropped his battle axe and surrendered. Especially Obrack had just hit him a nasty blow with that new magic warhammer of his, so that bugbear surrendered. So the characters all moved in, started walking around the room, and the I hadn't mentioned them. There were these goblins that were like servers in here who were pouring ale for the bugbears, like waiters. And so the characters actually started sitting down at the table, and this bugbear barked orders at those goblins to start pouring ale. And for the characters, he was trying to buy time to placate the characters and hopefully save his life. So that's what's going on in this screenshot. Varys sat down, lit up some of his elf root, and started smoking. And Obrack started questioning the bugbear. I don't think anybody in the group speaks bugbear, but bugbear speak goblin, and Obrack does as well. So he was translating. They wanted the bugbear to tell him what he knows. The bugbear said that he and the others had just been recruited by the air temple literally the day before. And he says that they had been promised lots of easy loot and victory in battle if they joined with the air temple. But now, as you can see, all his friends are dead. So he willingly told the characters what he knew, in hope of sparing his life. All he could really tell them was that they had only seen one human, a human priest, and his name was Kelno. And he also told the characters that if they went south, they would come to another set of doors, and that there were more bugbears in behind those doors, but that those bugbears had already been here for a while, and they were like the veterans of the air temple, and they kind of bullied these new bugbears. So he didn't really care giving them up to the characters. He was just hoping to get out of this whole thing alive. So eventually the characters told the bugbear and those two goblins to, they gave them the same deal they had before, that, get out of here and never come back. And but if we ever catch you around here again in the temple, there'll be no mercy. So the bugbear and the goblins took them at their word and left. So the characters continued on down the hall a little further, went around a corner. Sure enough, there was a couple of doors. They decided to go for the door directly to the west, and for now at least not do anything with the door to the south. So they barged in through that door, and sure enough, there was another group of bugbears lounging around in a fairly well-furnished room. it was dark in there. The bugbears have infravision; they don't need any light to see. But the characters caught them all by surprise, and Obrak and Aramis especially charged in, started making attack rolls, and you can see there Aramis scored some pretty good damage right off the bat on one of the bugbears. So they killed those two initial bugbears. You can see Aramis scored another critical hit, more damage, and they pushed their way further into the room with other characters following. But of course, their luck couldn't last forever, and that critical hit you see that I rolled, that was on Obrak. One of the bugbears scored that face smash on Obrak. So he was temporarily out of the fight from receiving that stun. A little further into the battle, that bugbear that stunned Obrak followed up on it by literally picking Obrak up and body slamming him to the floor back there in the along the back wall of the room. By now, however, all the commotion of the fighting had drawn attention, and that other door just outside in the hallway to the south opened up, and a bugbear appeared out of that door looking in this room to try to see what was going on. And and you can also see that Aramis rolled a fumble, and he tripped and fell, and it took him temporarily out of the fight. So the things had kind of turned on the characters here. So a little further into the battle, Thorol had backed up away from those other bugbears that appeared behind the characters, and then he cast a web spell into that corridor to slow up any bugbear reinforcements coming in from behind where Naya was standing. And then a little further, they continued to fight those bugbears. Only the one was still alive, the one that had body slammed Obrak, and the screenshot doesn't show it, but I had in my notes that he actually ran out that door in the bottom left-hand corner of the room and escaped that way, and at least for the time being, had gotten away. So a little further, the bugbears that were outside in the hallway, the characters could see that they had gotten some fire and were trying to burn their way through Thorol's web to get into this room. And it's not visible in the screenshot, but I also had in my notes that the characters had seen in the darkness beyond a light gray robed human lurking about, and they assumed that was an elemental air priest, and they'd had bad experiences with these priests casting hold person, and they didn't want to get into that situation. So they all decided to flee out that door, and they found that there was a hallway beyond. And the characters started running north up that hallway. And the sergeant major stayed back because Obrak was only just now coming around out of his stun. And so the sergeant major stayed back to help Obrak get back on his feet and follow the others so that he wouldn't be left behind. So the characters went north and opened up into this big room, which they had actually been to before. You remember from a couple episodes back, there was a minotaur in this room that they fought, and they found themselves back in that room from the opposite direction. So they stopped here for a minute, caught their breath, and did a little bit of healing. And so they went north after they were arrested. They went north out of this room, and they wanted to circle back around and try to come back to the Bugbear the Air Temple area from the same way that they had first come in. And the main reason is because they realized when they got to that Minotaur room, Obrak had been stunned and on the ground, and he had dropped his new warhammer and shield. And so when the characters all fled, nobody thought to grab Obrak's stuff. And, he had just got that new magic weapon and shield, and he, really wanted to get it back. And so he had a backup, like a +1 battle axe that he had been using, which he took with him as a spare weapon. So he had that, but he really wanted that other stuff back again. So the characters decided they would circle back around, try to come back to the Air Temple area from the original way, hopefully catch bugbears, whatever was there from behind, and take them by surprise. So the Sergeant Major and Varys stepped into this room where they had just been, literally maybe 10 minutes before. And as soon as they stepped into that area, they started taking arrow fire from the darkness to the south. And rather than, wait around, the Sergeant Major, Varys, and Obrak all just decided to charge south into the darkness and try to close with whatever was shooting arrows at them. But they soon came to a table that had been flipped over on its side as a makeshift barricade, which temporarily slowed them up. And Aramis was coming up, but then out of the darkness, he got hit with a hold person spell and locked him into place. And so he was out of the fight. Before that, when they first got to that table, on the left-hand screenshot, down at the very bottom, you can see there's a little bit of a light angle. What that was the entranceway to that mess hall that the characters had just been in a little while ago. So the Sergeant Major and Varys pushed that table. They were using it for cover from arrow fire, but they pushed it down further down the hallway so that Obrak could, the plan was for him to go back into that mess hall area just to make sure that no one was hiding in there waiting to ambush the characters from behind. And so he went to clear that. There was nothing there. Meanwhile, Thorol and Niobe grabbed Aramis and dragged him off to the side to the right. You can see in that upper right-hand corner of the screenshot. And that was just to get him out of the line of fire from any missile, any arrows that were coming, and try to keep him safe for the time being. And also during this time, Thorol had cast invisibility on himself. So moving on, a little while later, some bugbears came charging up out of the darkness up to that table and started fighting Varys and the Sergeant Major. Niobe had ducked into that side hallway, and you can see Thorol there. He's invisible, so he's not really worried about being targeted for the moment. In this screenshot, you can see that some of the bugbears are dead. Varys had taken a nasty hit, and so he stepped back, and Obrak went up and took his place. It shows that Varys rolled a natural 20, but that was actually the Sergeant Major. The player that normally runs the Sergeant Major was not here on this night, and so Varys was running that character for him. So it was actually the Sergeant Major that scored that critical hit on a bugbear and inflicted that damage. So a little while later, there was only one bugbear left, and Varys decided to cast Charm Person, and he was successful. And so that bugbear there standing in front of Obrak stopped fighting, and proclaimed Varys his new best friend and all that. The Sergeant Major and Obrak then pushed that table to the side and went charging off into the darkness because, they didn't know what might still be down there. Something had been shooting arrows at them, but they were pretty sure it was not the bugbear, so they knew there had to be something else. So they took off. Varys was going to go too, but the charmed bugbear physically restrained him, would not let him go because he was afraid Varys might get hurt down there. He said that there were other monsters, creatures down there that did not realize that Varys was the great guy that this bugbear knew him to be, and so he physically restrained Varys, would not let him go. And bugbear's big and strong enough, he was able to do that. So the other characters went on down. They went back around that corner where they first started fighting those bugbears earlier, and encountered another table turned on its side for a barricade, and there were some gnolls there. And the one gnoll to the north, it's not on the screenshot, but he rolled a fumble, and the result was that he tripped and fell. So he was laying on the floor behind that overturned table, or that table laying on its side. So Obrak and the Sergeant Major focused on the other gnoll and quickly took him out. Meanwhile, Garrett, Niobe, and Thorol were coming up to try to help. In this screenshot, since the bugbear wouldn't let Varys go, he lit up some more elf root and offered it to the bugbear to try to get him to chill out a little. So that's what's going on up there. Again, the die rolls are not in the screenshot, but I had in my notes that gnoll who had tripped and fell the previous round got back up, tried to attack, and I rolled the exact same thing. He rolled a fumble, and he tripped and fell down. So at this point, the Sergeant Major and Obrak were getting tired. So Obrak literally just grabbed the edge of that table and flipped it up and over that gnoll. And the Sergeant Major and then Obrak attacked that other gnoll and quickly dispatched him. So now that all the opponents were gone, the characters went back into that room. Of course, they were hoping to find Obrak's warhammer and shield still lying on the floor in there, but they were not there. Someone had taken them, but none of the monsters here that they had fought had them. So, at least for the time being, Obrak's warhammer and shield are still missing. The characters checked that door to the south, in front of where Niobe is in the screenshot, and they found it was locked. And rather than messing around with trying to pick the lock or anything, Varys came down. He had a knock spell, and they just blew open the door with that knock spell to get inside. It was a well-furnished room, with the different gray shades of tones of gray decor, obviously indicating the air temple. But there was nothing in here. But there were two doors. There was one on the east wall and one on the south. And they checked that door to the south. It was unlocked, but there was nothing there. So then they checked that door to the east, and just like the first one that they first came in through, it was locked. And Varys had one more knock spell left, and then he was going to be out of spells, so he decided to use it. So the characters blew down that door. Inside this room was this human dressed in various shades of gray robes. He of course knew the characters were out there, so as soon as they blew open the door, he cast Hold Person, and he caught Aramis, Varys, and the Sergeant Major, all three, Obrak made a save. Thorol at this point is still invisible, so the air temple priest did not see him, and so Thorol was not targeted. So Thorol moved down there to the south edge of the room, and you may remember from the last video I had said that Halloween had just recently passed, and so the characters had some of those Halloween reward items. And Thorol had one of those flaming jack-o'-lantern items that I think Obrak had used in the last video. Thorol had one. So he decided to just go ahead and use it. He threw it at the air temple priest, as you can see here, and it exploded. It's like a miniature fireball. Of course, when he attacked, he was no longer invisible, but it didn't matter. He felt he needed the help at this point. So the thing blew up, inflicted some damage on the air temple priest, but the sergeant major was standing too close. And you can see in this screenshot, he took some damage as well. His health bar has gone down. By now, that bugbear had realized that the air temple priest had cast a spell on Varys. And, the bugbear being charmed by Varys didn't like that, that the air temple priest had attacked his best friend. So the bugbear ran up, took a swing at the air temple priest, scored a critical hit, and you can see the results of that. Knocked some more hit points off of him, still wasn't dead. Meanwhile, Thorol had begun casting. He had a magic missile spell left. So he cast a magic missile at the air temple priest. He rolled it's not on here, but he rolled the maximum damage possible. And that was enough to finish off the air temple priest. So he was dead. Since so many of the characters had that hold person spell on them, there was really nothing they could do but just wait in this room, wait for it to wear off, which takes some time. But meanwhile, the characters that were not held, looked around the room, explored, found some loot, was gathering it up, and meanwhile, Nio looked behind the curtain there in the corner and found that it concealed another passageway heading off to the northeast. All right, so that's all I have for now. If you like this video, please consider hitting the like button. Feel free to leave a comment. Share the video if you want, and anything you can do, I appreciate it. Thanks again. Bye for now.
The greatest adventure is what